Good morning, everybody. My name is Terry. I'm your friend. I'm talking to you live from Austin, Texas, where the sun is hot, the barbecue is sweet, and all the drinks are free when you're going to hang out with me. So, hey, thanks for joining this morning. I want to talk this morning a little bit about how to get better and maybe some things you can think about for your business, for your team. If you're running a department, if you're running a small team, if you're running a business, is thinking about how to get better. So many times what I'll do is I'll visit different parts of the country for my business, and I'll sit down and have lunch with folks, and I'll call it a how to get better lunch or a how to get better meeting. And I'll just simply, bring it up and say, we're always looking for opportunities to get better. How do we get better? But in the scope of that, I want to dig just a little bit deeper, and I want to talk about 5 ways or things to look at that you might want to look at with your team and see if there are things that are either there or that are missing, and then maybe talk about ways that you can improve upon those. And so here we go. Number 1 way about how to get better is you need to look at the amount of trust that is in between the team. Does the team actually trust each other? And so a lot of times what we have is we have this false trust. We have this, there's a mutual professional respect, but in essence, what you really find out is, are people being vulnerable in front of each other, and do they trust each other enough that they aren't going to put themselves at risk if they in fact show or share some of their vulnerabilities? And the way that you see that is when people ask questions like, I don't know this, or I'd like more information about this, or what do you mean by that? When you hear those kind of questions, that means somebody is saying, I don't know really what you're talking about for that particular department or in the group, and they need some help with that. So what that means is maybe they don't have the level of competency about all the pieces of the business or all the pieces of that particular process or that particular department. And so they're willing to stand up and say, hey, I don't have all the pieces of that particular process. Therefore, I need to step up and ask for help. I've said it before. So the 3 hardest things to say, right, in life are: number 1 is I love you. Number 2 is Worcestershire sauce. And number 3 is I need help. So when people start asking for help, that's a level that they trust the group, they trust the team enough to be able to be vulnerable and ask for that. So I would just ask you, you need to take a little bit of deeper dive into your team and say, does everybody really trust each other enough to be vulnerable? And the solution to that is, when that's happening, you as the leader need to be human. You need to listen, you need to understand, you need to be accepting, and you need to take the time and educate people on those pieces of the process. So number 1 is, how much trust do you have amongst the team? Number 2 is, how much conflict, constructive conflict, is really going on amongst the team? In other words, if somebody brings up an idea or a project or something they think can get better, is there enough open dialogue amongst the group to be able to have a challenge? Does anybody challenge somebody else? And does anybody challenge the leader? I found out sometimes, depending on how I respond, is how much people will challenge me. So if somebody wants to challenge me in an idea as the leader, and I immediately become combative, or I immediately become tell them all the reasons why it's going to work, or if I have immediate responses, or I shut down whatever their challenge is very quickly, nobody else is willing to challenge anymore because they're afraid they're going to get shut down real quick. So is there open dialogue? And when somebody challenges, especially the leader, does the leader say, tell me more about that, or I'd like to hear more about that, or why do you say that, or what's your thinking behind that, right? Are people speaking up? That's what you have to look for in the team. Are people speaking up, or is everybody completely quiet and nobody wants to say anything, because if they do challenge, they're going to get shut down, or they're going to get pushed to the outside of the group? I'm telling you, it is good to have debate and challenge ideas around the room, inclusive of challenging the leader. Number two is make sure you've got some constructive conflict and there's challenging going on, because that means people are comfortable with their role. If they're comfortable with their role, that means that, number one, they trust each other, that they're not going to be put at risk of losing their job or being put out or being, put down in front of the group, embarrassed, whatever, if they have a little conflict. Number three, how much commitment do you have in the team? And what you want to look at there is there a level of commitment among the team that people are willing to do whatever it takes in order to get the job done? Or do you hear a lot of "it's not my job" kind of stuff going on? When people are saying "it's not my job," what they're saying is, "Man, I thought that somebody else was doing that," or you'll hear this sometimes, "That I don't do that. I have a college degree, or I have a master's degree. I don't clean the bathrooms anymore. I don't clean under the treadmills anymore. That's not, I'm a coach. I'm a trainer. Okay. I went to school for exercise science and this is what I do." As opposed to having the business best interest at heart. We know this. Members can see under the treadmills and under the rowers, and they need to be clean. And cleaning is the number 2 or 3 reason why people quit health clubs or fitness centers. And so we need people to clean. And I always say, if you've got time to lean, you got time to clean. So pick up a spray bottle and a rag and let's get wiping things down, right? But in any case, what I'm looking at is commitment. And commitment is who is going to do what by when, regardless of the task. So are you going to close? Are you going to lock up? Are you going to set the alarm? Are you going to pick up in the parking lot because it is curb appeal and represents, how your business looks? And all I'm suggesting is that level of commitment is many times, as the leader, if you focus on clarity and who's going to do what will happen is that level of clarity will mean that people understand what the job responsibilities are and what needs to get done. And many times they will pick up those responsibilities. But a lot of times commitment has to do with clarity. It has to do with people understanding what needs to get done and also planning ahead and thinking through things. Number 4 is accountability. How's the accountability on your team? And when I say accountability, it's not necessarily the leadership accountability. You have real accountability when you have team players holding other team players accountable. We see that in sports all the time, right? Where you'll have quarterback come over and talk to the players, or you'll have somebody that's the lead on that football team and they'll talk to the players on the bench and create a level of accountability, not from the coach, not from the offensive or defensive coordinator or the head coach, but you'll see that come from within the team. And so that's when you really have accountability, where people are talking and the culture of your business says, this is how we do it and we operate this way. And you have people, staff people telling other staff people, salespeople telling salespeople, coaches telling coaches that this is how it's done. And, when each of them inspect or have a certain level of expectation from their own peer group, that's when you can start seeing that there is a level of accountability amongst the team, that the team is holding themselves accountable rather than the leader holding the team accountable. When there's a lack of accountability, you got to confront those issues and you've got to bring that up and talk to folks about that. So accountability is number 4. Do you have it, or is there people are avoiding accountability within your team? Number 5 is, getting results. And I can't tell you how important this is, how important key performance indicators are. But are people really getting results? And is there a high level of attention on the result? So there could be a high level of attention on the person. That's about the ego. That's about the individual. That's about perhaps the department. But what really needs to happen is there a high level of focus on the results of that particular business? We heard the coach, and I can't remember his name for the life of me right now, from the New England Patriots used this phrase 2 years ago, is all they have to do is their job. Just do your job, just do your job. But the reality is, if people just do their job, then you in fact get results. So many times you're not getting results because people aren't doing what is required. And having an owner mentality of, I'll do whatever it takes to get this or to get the, ball across the finish line. but are people doing their job? Are they helping where it's actually needed, as opposed to saying, hey, that's not my job? And are they really focused on results? And do you as a business, or do you as a department, do you have key performance indicators that say, these are the metrics that move the needle for my department? And it doesn't have to be a ton. It doesn't have to be 10 or 20. It needs to be maybe 2, 3, or 4 different metrics that you can narrow everything down and say, if these 3 or 4 things get done, we move the needle and this business moves. You need to be focused as the leader on outcomes, not necessarily on individual players and egos and those particular things. So anyway, just wanted to mention that today. If you're looking for improvement in a team, if you're looking for how to get better, these are 5 things. Number 1 is trust amongst the team. Number 2 is, are you having healthy conflict? Number 3 is, do you have a team that's truly committed? Will they run through walls and do whatever it takes? Number 4, is there a level of accountability, not from the leader to the team, but amongst the team members themselves? Do they hold themselves to a level of accountability? And number 5 is, are you focused on results, and do you have key performance indicators to help you get there? There's 5 tips about how to get a better team, how to perform a little bit better. My name's Terry. I'm your friend.